good evening, dear audience, fellow classmates. I'm Daniel Burbano.
Good evening for everyone. I'm Emil Aguilar.
We're students of the UTPL, and we're going to introduce you a new and revolutionary project.
Okay, first I want to say that nowadays, English has become a very important tool for education. That's why the aim of the project is to encourage young students as us to open their frontiers by learning a new language with the support of our teachers in UTPL and also educational platforms.
Okay, so as you can see, language is an essential component of our self-development. It opens you a wide range of social and laboral possibilities that can bring you so many benefits that will help you achieve your goals. So we have prepared some objectives we want you to achieve on this project.
Okay, the general objective for us about this project is that the aim of the UTPL Innovation Project is to open the world to students and provide them not only labor possibilities, also social, cultural, and traveling facilities by breaking the language barrier. Students by the end of this project must be capable to communicate to each other in terms of foreign language.
Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you some specific objectives of this project. First of all, we have to make students acquire the ability to express their thoughts and scientific knowledge in English. Also, make the students solve problems and deal with the solution in a foreign language. Also, make them develop language fluency and a correct grammatical construction. And finally, teach students different methods of learning a new language in their daily routine. And now we have the pleasure to introduce you to Paul. Hello, Paul, welcome.
Hello, Paul. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Emily and Daniel.
Okay,
So, please, Paul, can you introduce yourself? Tell us about your life, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so shall I go ahead and do the whole introduction now,
Please.
or just briefly?
You can do it right now.
Yes, as it's better for you.
I'll just go ahead. Go ahead. All right. So Emily and Daniel invited me here today, and also Christian. I don't know if he'll be here. I met him several months ago. He was in our English and Spanish language exchange group in Cuenca. So I live in Cuenca now. I've lived in Cuenca for 5 years. I'm from the United States, and my home state is Arkansas, which is up to if you know where Texas is, that's a big state in the South, the Mid-South. And Arkansas is to the northeast of that. So I lived there until I was 18, and then I went to music school up in the city of Boston, which is far northeast, state of Massachusetts. Then finished my university undergraduate, my licencia or bachelor's degree in a university in my home state of Arkansas in music. I've always been really interested in music, and so I decided I wanted to do that for my career. So after I did my first university in music education, which was a teaching degree, I went to the Florida State University and did a degree in choral conducting. So that means I was going to be a director of choral ensembles, of choirs, or coros in Spanish. And so I did that. Then I went and I taught high school in the state of Florida for 3 years. And in that job, I was directing 2 choirs of high school students, and we did concerts, and I also taught some other classes like in piano and different things like that. Then I went back and taught 2 more years in my hometown where I actually grew up, and it was a very different kind of experience because my hometown's very tiny. It's like only 3,000 people, so that was a different experience. but I had some really nice students there. We did some nice concerts. After that, I decided I wanted to get into university teaching. And so I went and did a doctoral degree in also in conducting or directing of large musical ensembles at Indiana University. And Indiana is in the Midwest of the United States. The city is called Bloomington. When I was there, I got a, what do we call it? A scholarship or a beca, you call it in Spanish, to study for my thesis in France. So I went to France for a year to the cities of Strasbourg. Strasbourg is in the far east beside Germany, and then also in Paris, which is, of course, the capital. And I did my research, and then I did some concerts there in France. I went back and got a job in the university in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And Fort Wayne, Indiana is up in the northeastern part of the state of Indiana, again, which is in the Midwest, the very middle of the United States. After that, I wanted to do something different, so I'd always been interested in New York City. And New York is a really big city. Maybe some of you have family or friends there, and it's a center of publishing. It's a center of book publishing and also music publishing. So I got with a classical music publishing company in New York City, and I had some friends there, so I went and lived with my friends and worked as an editor of classical music. So like the actual musical score, the partitura or partición.
Yes.
And so I worked on making those ready for publication. That was good for 2 years, and I decided then I wanted to get back into university teaching. So at that point, I actually went and did a job in choir directing in the city of New Orleans. Anybody know where New Orleans is? Sound familiar? You can raise your hand.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It's in the far, far south in Louisiana. And Louisiana is interesting because the Spanish colonized Louisiana and but the French founded or established the city of New Orleans, but then they sold that to the Spanish. So New Orleans is interesting because the architecture has a lot of buildings that are like Cuenca. They have the central patios and the balconies on the interiors. So when I came to Cuenca, it was like, I feel like I'm in New Orleans again, or in Spain, something like that. After being there for a year, I also worked for the United States Census Department because it was the year 2000 and they needed extra people. That was very interesting because I got to meet a lot of different people. New Orleans is a very interesting city because it has a high level of diversity. Of course, there's a very tragic, difficult history in the United States with slavery. And in most of the United States, the slaves were brought from Africa, and their lives were of course terrible and very difficult because they were under the British American rules. However, in New Orleans, the slaves were under French American rules because the French were in control up until the year 1803. Anyway, it created a different atmosphere. So the African Americans who live in New Orleans are different. They have a different sort of culture. And of course, it's the birthplace of jazz music. And so the musical culture in New Orleans is very, very interesting. After that, I decided I really seriously wanted to go back to university teaching. So at that point, I found a job at the American University of Beirut. And maybe you've heard of Beirut. It's the capital city of the country of Lebanon. And it's one of the most interesting cities in the world. It this country of Lebanon and the city of Beirut has had many different empires to come and occupy it, from the Egyptians to the Assyrians to the Greeks to the Romans to the Byzantines to the British and the French and everything in between. So they're a very interesting, they're very interesting country, very interesting culture, a very interesting mix of culture. You are all working on English, right? Working to get your English
Yes.
a little bit better. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So most of the educated people in Lebanon speak not one and not two, but 3 languages with ease.
Oh,
At their home, they'll speak Arabic, or they'll speak French, or they'll speak English. With their friends, they'll speak Arabic and French, or they'll speak French and English. And then sometimes they mix all 3 languages together. It's really funny to sort of hear the Lebanese work with their languages, because sometimes people use a word and they don't even know what language it comes from. You know, they just use it. It becomes, quote, the Lebanese language. So as everybody speaks Spanish here, and a lot of people speak good English, and people speak other languages too. I'm just curious. Everybody's muted now, but what languages do people speak? Everybody's first language is Spanish. Is that right? We think
Yes.
yes.
language of instruction at your university is Spanish. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, does anybody in the group speak a language other than Spanish or English? I'm just interested to know.
I don't know.
Everybody,
Maybe someone
No,
wants
not
to say
really.
maybe what, something?
I
Uh,
don't think so.
a little
No,
bit.
not really.
Anybody's family speak Quechua, for example, or you know some Quechua words,
Yeah.
possibly, maybe.
Yeah, but just a few ones. I
Ñaño.
think like the
Miñaño, yeah,
more.
Just a
miñaño,
few ones.
miñaño.
Ñaño. Yes.
Ñaño. Yeah, everybody uses ñaño. That's nice. Yeah. So cool. Um, anyway, I had a really interesting, fun experience in Beirut. Uh, it was really an interesting city. I had people in the United States, because there was a difficult history in the 1980s in Lebanon because they had a civil war. But when I went in the year 2000, things had really calmed down, and it was a very great moment. Of course, you know, in November of this year, they had a terrible explosion, and that was because of some badly placed chemicals in the port of Beirut. But fortunately, all my friends were okay. They had some damage to their homes, but they're all okay. Um, so my job, number one, up to this point, is everybody understanding what I'm saying? And do you have a question thus far? I'm going to start talking about my work in American University of Beirut.
Does
Anybody?
anyone have a question?
No questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, no, maybe?
I have one for you. Like it really
Yeah,
sounds
Emily.
like you really like traveling, knowing more cultures, countries,
I
costumes. I don't
do,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, but I want to know which country do you like the best and why?
Ecuador, 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 Ecuador.
No,
No,
no, not.
I'm gonna
Are you
get no.
sure?
I tell you what, I'm gonna get to that because my story gets there in like just a half a minute, because it is I've always once I started traveling, when I went to France, I'm like, I want to see every place now. So Lebanon was good. It's got kind of cold, wet winters, like when it's cold in Cuenca, kind of like that, or a little hot. But then the summers are very hot. Um, so I don't like hot weather. That's why I like Cuenca a lot. I like the weather in Cuenca. Uh, anyway, so my job in Beirut was to direct two choirs, to teach music theory, which is like how classical music works. And then I had a lot of great friends. We traveled around the country to Syria and to Egypt and to Jordan and to Palestine. Well, they actually can't go to Palestine, but to Turkey and Greece, the whole Eastern Mediterranean. It's a great place to travel. Um, so I was there for 10 years. And after that, I decided I wanted to do something different. So I worked with my family's business in the United States, the city of Austin, which is a great city. If you get to the United States, try to go to Austin. It's terrific. And then I wanted to see something. I had a friend who lived in Thailand. Thailand is a very interesting place. It's also cheap. It's not expensive to live there. So I went and stayed in my friend's guest house in Thailand and worked with the same family business that I was doing in the United States. But now, of course, we can do this remotely. And so I did that online. And then after that, I liked Thailand, but the weather was too hot. So I learned about Cuenca and I said, I'm going to go to Cuenca. So after I got to Cuenca, and also I found out that what's the best thing that Ecuador produces? Your agricultural product.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Anyway, I love coffee and I love chocolate. So it's like it's got great weather, it's got coffee, and it's got chocolate. So that's why I love Ecuador the best. And it's got great people.
Things in just one
Yeah, right. So great weather, great coffee, great chocolate, great people. So I'm in Ecuador and I really, really do like it. And we've got the internet so I can do the work that I need to do. I'm going to, if nobody has a question, I'm going to play a little excerpt of the music that we did in Lebanon, if that's okay.
Okay,
Does that sound
okay.
right? Do we have time?
Yes.
This is about a minute. When our university president was installed, we did a special concert, and I'm going to put the name, I'll let this play. This is a piece by Felix Mendelssohn, a German composer who died in 1827, but it's called the Hymn of Praise Symphony, or the Himno de Alabanza, and I'm going to share the screen, and we'll hear just about a minute of the end of this concert. And this is my university choir at the American University of Beirut, and hopefully I'll get this happening. Okay, so this is the last minute of the Mendelssohn Hymn of Praise Symphony. All right. So, am I back?
Yes.
Did that
Yes.
work?
Thank you, Paul. Yes.
Okay. So that was the American University of Beirut Choir in 2010. That's the year that I left. So, anyway, that was my career, and I'm really happy to see you all, and I hope you can work on your English a lot. I'm going to share on the chat the name of that piece if you find it interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I
You're
want
And
to
welcome.
say something
also,
about the video. I think that the most interesting thing is like the coordination of each one of the participants because they managed to create a uniform sound that sounds completely good. It was incredible.
Well, we really worked on it, and it was 10 years of sort of preparing, and of course that's like the Cuenca or the Loja Symphony Orchestra, the Orquesta Sinfónica. So go to your orchestra concerts in Loja because you have a beautiful hall there. You have a beautiful sala, and I'll share the link also. Um, it's a really interesting, it's a really fun and beautiful piece. It's very long. It's got 10 parts with lots of variety with soloists and things like that. So check out classical music if you haven't done so.
okay. Also, I have a question. I see that you really, really like music. Is that right? So, I would like to
I
know
do.
what was your first experience with music? I mean, when you were a child,
Yeah,
or
well, I was a
when you
child. You know
listening.
how you learn little songs as a kid, a little tiny child. Um, but then when I was maybe 10 years old, I took lessons on the piano. And then in the United States, schools have highly developed choir programs and band or you have banda de guerra, which is like trumpets and drums. But in U.S. schools, they have like bands that are in parades with all the saxophones and the trumpets and the drums and trombones. They have programs that teach that in the schools. So I was in my school band, and then I went to music school. But I was probably 10 years old when I first started working on music, as one does.
Okay, thank you. And also, Emily,
Yeah,
having a
I
question.
have another question.
Sure.
Also related to music, I think it's completely obviously I can say that you have a passion in music. But I want to know if do you think that to other people that maybe music they are not to connect with music, you think that it's also an essential part in the life of a person?
I think music is a natural human activity. I think singing and making music is something that human beings have always done. And I think it's something that makes a human being human. So you don't have to be a musician, but I think having some kind of response to music is a very natural human thing. Whether meaning if it's with the voice, with singing, or with playing an instrument, or even engaging with the sound aspect of poetry. Hip hop is interesting because it's compared to the music I just played for you, Western classical music, hip hop is very, very different. So for me, it's more like an extension of poetry. Um, and the poetry is really, really interesting. All poetry has an aspect that is musical. Uh, you see, I love this topic. Among African people, um, and even among the Irish, which is interesting. I mean, poetry and music and dance are all wrapped up together. Among most sub-Saharan Africa, if you know what I mean, the African continent is very big. There's the Sahara Desert, the Sahara, and then down below is the place where they make. We think of African drums, and drumming music, dance, and poetry are all one art form. And it's really thought as an essential part of being human. And then of course, the visual arts human beings have done that for tens of thousands of years. We know the cave paintings in France are many, many tens of thousands of years old. So all the arts are what make us human, and it's essential. And music is one of those, but it's not the only one, of course.
Yeah, totally agree
Okay.
with everything he said.
Yes. And now I would like to know, talking about your experience with other, like students. We saw that you traveled a lot. You met a lot of cultures. What do you think it's the importance of acquiring a new language, of knowing a new language?
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. What's the importance of acquiring a new language?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, why is it important? I mean, living in Cuenca, I need to speak Spanish to many of the people because not that many people speak English. Um, and then I lived in Lebanon and I wanted to learn Arabic. I lived in France. I wanted to learn French. I visited Ireland. I wanted to learn Irish because I wanted to communicate with the people. And this is the importance to me. It's two main things. Is you learn about the people only when you speak some of their language. And then you learn more about the culture when you speak the language. My Spanish is not very good. It's better than it was before. But I know so much more about living in Ecuador and living in Cuenca because I do have a certain level of the language, and I don't have to work through an interpreter all the time. That's one thing. It's communication with the people who live there. That's one thing. The second thing is neuroscience tells us, the research in neuroscience tells us that learning a language is very good for our brains. It keeps it flexible. It keeps, you're familiar with the term dementia, like when people get old like me, you know, we start to lose our short-term memory and we start to lose the sharpness of our minds. This happens to all human beings. But learning language has been shown, learning foreign languages, continuing to work with foreign languages has been demonstrated in research to slow the process of dementia. It keeps our brains functioning better. So, you know, I work with Spanish every day. I also work with French. Sometimes I work with Irish because I have an Irish literature group. Sometimes I try to work with my Arabic a little bit because all 10 years that I lived in Beirut, I was studying Arabic language. So that's why it's
Yeah, you're
important.
right.
It's important.
Yes, it's very important.
But now I want to know like the best advice for us, for this group, for Ecuador, I can say. Which one you think it would be like the best advice to us to learn a new language?
Oh, well, learn. Okay. Okay, I'll just say generally things that I think are important to you guys that are university students. Number one, learn a language. Choose a language to work on that you're interested in. Um, and definitely do that because you want to stay interested in it. The other thing is that the second thing I would say is that choose a language that's going to be helpful. And the two most helpful languages on the international scene today would be, what do you think? What would you say, Emily, to anybody?
Oh, well, um, I think English can help in so many ways. The first advice that I would say is that first everybody have to make some effort, put some like a lot of effort. Everything is not about what I'm good at English or I'm good at French. It's everything about constancy and effort. And you have to do everything that you can. You can use internet. You can not just only classes. You can teach yourself any language and do whatever you propose.
I completely agree. So you mentioned English, and especially for internet applications, English is just, it's almost necessary. English domination in the media. I mean, you're all learning English, and I think that's very wise. Is there another language that's getting very important?
Yes,
What?
I think it's Mandarin. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, exactly. No, Mandarin, Chinese. Yeah, Mandarin Chinese. So, the Chinese are going to dominate uh, everything before long,
So
or it's really important. Also, if you learn, I mean, s- both Spanish and English belong to the what big language family? Indo-European. All right, they developed in Europe. But Chinese is like, it's a different story. I mean, so when you have to, like, I learned when I lived in Thailand, I learned the Thai language, which is closely related to Chinese. And it's like, it's completely different. It's like your brain has to do entirely different things when you speak Chinese or Thai. They belong to the same large family. So, um, so if you work both on English and then work on Chinese or Mandarin we say in English, you're really going to exercise your brain in different ways. Uh, and I want to recommend, if you don't know this already, the app Duolingo. Does
Yes,
that
yeah,
sound familiar?
we work with that.
we do work on it.
Okay, and it's free, it's good, especially the English and the Spanish um, Duolingo programs or what are very, very good. So I went through the Spanish program all the way a couple of times, and it deals with everything. It doesn't take you that far, but when I went to Ireland, for example, I wanted to learn the Irish language, and there's not that many people speak Irish, and so but Duolingo has the program. They have a highly developed Mandarin program also. So that's great. It's free. Do you know the story of Duolingo? How it developed?
No?
It was some poor guy, boy, from a village in Guatemala. And he just thought everybody should be able to learn language. And he created Duolingo like out of nothing. He has a TED talk. Um, you know the TED Talks?
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's in Spanish. Uh, anyway, maybe I'll try to find it. But TED Talk, Duolingo, but it's a fascinating story. Uh, also Duolingo has a series of uh, podcasts, which will help you with your English too. So yeah, that's a great way to learn English, and there we go.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
You're
So,
welcome.
I think
yeah.
we really appreciate your help in this project,
My
and
pleasure.
yes, and we hope that we might see you soon. I don't know, probably.
I hope so. So come to Cuenca. Is that Christian down there?
I
Is that
think
the
so.
Christian that I know? Good to see you again, man. Yeah, there he is. How are you?
So I'm doing great, and I'm so glad that my students are doing this. So thank you so much for helping them and helping us.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we finally managed to meet each other, and it's very interesting that we can meet each other here online, even though. So everybody, cuídese mucho and stay healthy.
Okay, so now we have the pleasure to present you a new person that is called Luis Pacheco.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Nice, and thank you very much, Emily and Daniel, for inviting me to this great event. For me, it's a pleasure to be here. As Daniel said, I'm Luis Gabriel Pacheco. I'm 18 years old and currently studying at the University of South Florida in United States, Tampa, Florida, of course. And today I was asked a little bit to talk about how learning English and how developing these new language skills has helped me in my life, in my college career. And keep in mind, I'm only 18 years old, and it has done the fact that I learned English at a young age. It has done amazing things for me, as I'm pretty sure that Paul just talked to us a little bit about it, and it was really, really amazing. Well, I've always been interested in English since the moment I started trying to understand the lyrics in different songs. I always liked music in English, of course, and I wanted to know what the hell were they were saying. I wanted to understand them. So I started listening to more music in English, and reading the lyrics in Spanish, trying to practice a little bit because I was always such a fan of how the English language sounded, how the words were pronounced, how it was written. And as I grew older and I started learning a lot more of English, I started to then watch some movies in their original language, and it was a complete different perspective I've never known. As a little kid, I watched TV always in Spanish, but then starting to listen in English with the original voices is something amazing, and it sounds beautiful, just like the composition that Paul showed us a couple of minutes ago. It's really an eye-opening situation to get interested in a different language, and for my case, this English was English. Thanks to my love of English and the interest I had, I was able to participate in many English-related contests, contests related to reading books, to writing poetry, to talking about global issues. And I've had the opportunity also to take many English proficiency exams, both from Cambridge and from the College Board. And thanks to God and thanks to a lot of effort, I've gotten great results that have now allowed me to get on a scholarship at the University of South Florida and fulfill my dream, which was my whole life studying in the USA. Now, I'm very glad that I've had the passion to learn this amazing language because everything that they tell you, it's true. English does open many doors. And I want to quote a little bit of what my literature professor said, Dr. Kikach. She said, "In fact, English is the closest that humanity has come to a universal language. It allows you to fulfill your dreams. It helps you to know the world, travel with ease, and is one of the most useful things for me." That's a quote from my literature professor, Dr. Kikach. I had a class today, and coincidentally, I guess, she was talking a little bit about this, so I decided to copy her a little bit for this presentation. She also talked about how English, and maybe repeating a little bit what Paul said, is one of the greatest ways to communicate with others. And by learning a second language, you just stop being, in this case, Ecuadorian. You become a citizen of the world. You get a new opportunity to meet many people, to get to know amazing, incredible places, to communicate with strangers, exchange ideas, build relationships, open yourself to new and amazing experiences, and even make you able to change the world. I want to share with you also a little bit of the labor side doors that English has opened for me, because this is a little bit college related, and in general, the communication skills, the relationship skills that I've gained thanks to knowing another language. Last week, I had an interview with Tesla, the electric car company. So I've been trying to get different jobs both here in Ecuador and in the United States, seeing if something comes up. Sadly, nothing has come up yet. But on this interview in Tesla, the guy that was interviewing me, he asked, do you know a second language? I know you're proficient in English, but do you know a second language? And I was like, yes, I do. I'm from Ecuador. I know Spanish. And since the interview was such natural, it was like a simple conversation, I got the courage to ask him, why is it important for companies, in this case for Tesla, that students or applicants need to know second language? And because it's something that every company has asked, and I just wanted to know. So I asked them, and they say, when someone learns a new language, they become able to share their own ideas with more and different people. But also, they are able to understand the ideas of someone else. And that universal communication and exchange of ideas is the first step in changing the world. And that is something that stayed with me till the day I die. The ability of listening and making my voice heard in a different language, opening myself to millions of people around the world, is the first step to change the world, is the first step to become someone that history books get written about. And I think that for everyone here today, we want to do something different. We want to change the world. We want to leave our mark in this place. And this universal communication that could be achieved by learning English or any other language is a key step for all of this.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So, as we can see, English is such an important tool for our life, for our job, for communicating with other people. So now I have some questions, Liz. You can help me with some questions. So first, tell me, please, people often think that learning a new language is difficult. What do you think about it?
Well, it's like learning anything in life. There are some things that's easier to learn for some people, and some things that are harder to learn for some people. For example, if you try to teach me chemistry or biology, I will fail miserably, and it will become the hardest thing in life for me, because I don't know, my brain isn't wired properly to understand chemistry or English or biology. But in my personal case, to understand languages is something that comes much more easier. So I could say like many I don't know, like advertisements to learn English, that they only say, I don't know, in YouTube, you only need 2 things to learn English quickly and that. But I don't want to lie to you. I want to be honest with you, and it depends. It really depends on how much time are you willing to put it, how much effort are you willing to put in. And I think the key part here is, do you like it? Do you like what you're doing? A little bit of a personal experience. I've tried also to learn French, but I didn't like it. And because I didn't like it, I didn't put effort, I didn't put time into it. And I ended up, I don't even know how to say hello in French. So I failed because it was something that I didn't like. So in order to learn a new language, the way to make it easier is find a language that you like. You like the sounds, you like the way it's written. Find something that you like and that you're passionate about.
What a good advice, like I said. I think it's going to be really useful. Okay, now relating the topic, I want to know about your career, but I want to know, like, when you recently arrived, what were or what are until now like the most difficult subjects to understand there for you?
Okay, the most difficult subjects right now in college have to be math. Not because math is hard, but because the terminology changes. I'm used to learning the symbols we use here, the punctuation on for the decimals that we use here. I'm very used to this. I'm very used also to the metric system. And now translating it to this new way of writing the new names for the different operations and the different signs, it's one of the toughest things there is, but it's a matter of time. I've honestly felt the change from the first term where it was really hard and I had to pay lots of attention and read and try to translate it to Spanish to understand it a little better, to right now where I'm at a point that I don't need to I don't need to translate it. I just gotta pay a little bit closer attention. That's maybe one of the hardest things. But honestly, once you start getting used to working with a different language, it's as if you were working with your own language. It's funny because up to some point, I think that my brain is stuck into my body, both in English and in Spanish. There are some things I think about in English, some things I think about in Spanish. It's really weird, it's really funny. I have a lot of fun when talking with my family, for example, and sometimes I sleep in English words and they get confused. It's very funny. And you start getting used to it, and it's not really hard, and it doesn't take much time to get used to it, as long as you put the time, put the effort, and it's something that you really enjoy.
Difficult, but not impossible.
So that's why one of the purposes of this project is to acquire a new language, but related to our careers. For example, if I'm studying engineering, I have to acquire English related to engineering, the terms that we use in engineering, about, as you say, the metric system, using other metric systems, bounds, that kind of things. And that's why we propose you to start learning English in different ways, not only in, the typical verb to be, everything about it. Also try to read books related to your career, telecommunications, geology, in English. So there you can acquire a new language related to your career.
Yeah, to everyone here that is connected, I can say that hope you really enjoy this presentation and you understand like the aim of everything, like hearing Paul, hearing Luis, and different experiences that they have talking about English, because as Luis said, it can open a lot of doors. It just depends on us. That's it.
Okay, so I really thank everyone your participation here in this webinar, and we hope to see you soon.